Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna.
And I'm Jocelyn.
She's right there with it, isn't she? We are recording from home, as you can see. Someone has been making, what have you been making?
Slime.
Slime.
I tried to make it with my friend Charlotte, but that was a mess. So I figured out, I actually made up my own recipe. It's just clay, water, and dish soap. And it doesn't feel like slime, and it doesn't feel like slime, but it feels nice.
Okay. Was good. We're doing, I guess, a little bit of science this morning. Clay, what? Water and dish soap.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Like it's because if you add the water after the dish soap, it turns into a mushy mess. I already found that out. But if you just use clay, a little bit of water until it gets melty, and then dish soap until it becomes like this.
There's your recipe for your kids and your grandkids, right? We have spent a lot of time, thought, and expense figuring out how to create the best slime. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk about rugs. We're moving on to rugs. Ted, are you going to come say hi to everybody at one point?
Yeah.
I think
we're moving on.
I think that's a yes.
That thing.
We're moving on. Hang on. So welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. And as you know, this is Jocelyn. And today we are looking at the current issue of Rug Hooking Magazine right here. Right? We're going to talk about that in just a minute. I just want to show you a couple of things before I lose them. I'm working from home because I had another plug thing this morning. Good times. Mom, great to see you. We are leaving right after the show to go to your place. That's one of the sources of rushing around, not you, us. Yay! Just packing up our bags and getting stuff ready. So I will be running shows, everything on schedule, running a little early today. I'm thinking about time-wise, if this time slot works, because in the summer when the kids are home and I run a show in the middle of the day, it cuts the day right in half. It makes it impossible to do anything. So we have to think about that, whether one day a week we might want to go earlier or later. I'm looking for your feedback on that. So Mom, we will see you in a little while. Good morning, Candace. Good morning. Amber, good morning. Good to see you from Grand Prairie, Alabama. Linda H., good morning in Massachusetts. We started the day at 78 in North Texas. It should hit 100. You are right at that summer point, aren't you? That is really, my shirt looks really low.
Emma,
that is really warm.
Can I say something? I forgot to mention, if anyone tries to make this, you can only use air dry clay. Normal clay will explode. Yeah, it will explode.
Okay.
It will blow down. No, it won't blow down your house. it will not go well. So you have to use air dry clay.
You have to use air dry clay. It is fun doing slime. I mean, we are certainly looking for projects to do in the summer with the kids at home. Making slime is one of your biggies, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at how.
It is very supple and tactile, I have to say. It smells really lovely. It smells like the dish detergent.
This type is meant to go like
almost like an ice cream, like you're doing ice cream stuff.
Like
I don't know if I told you this for sale. The other day I was driving locally here in Connecticut and I saw an ice cream truck for sale, and I remembered it is one of my great dreams in my life to own an ice cream truck, but use it a little bit for ice cream and a little bit for yarn and stuff like that. It would probably be a massive failure, wouldn't it? But it would be, but it would be fun to have an ice cream truck.
But it probably would.
It probably wouldn't go that well. But it just seems so much fun to be ringing that bell and playing those songs, and for people to be running out from their yards and stuff. It seems fun.
Can I see what the people are saying?
Yeah, you can read it right here. So no, no, don't touch my computer, not at all.
I want to scroll down.
No, don't touch my computer at all. See how edgy I am? It's right there at the surface. Allie, good morning. Great to see you watching from Mississippi. Robin, hello in Wisconsin. Great to see you. Whitney, great to see you. Good morning. Melissa, good morning in Canada. Great to see you. I know she won't disappoint with her. Nope, I am here. It just took a minute. I had another, I'm in one place. I drove to the studio to run the show, and I realized the plug was at home. It was not the reverse. It was actually the same thing as Friday. Again, I forgot that I had taken my computer home over the weekend. Uh-oh, look who's coming. And I was sitting on the couch at a crazy time of day working on the book. Here, can you move over so Teddy can come say good morning? Nothing weird, Ted. Nothing weird.
Surprise!
Can someone else say good morning?
Well, it depends on who it is. Okay,
Mama.
Someone else is saying good morning. Then we will start the show. Someone else is saying good morning. Good morning, baby. Good morning. He loves to say good morning and be on camera. And this person's also saying good morning. This person is headed for a haircut. Talk about a hot mess, right, Buttons? Talk about a hot mess.
Oh my God! Wait, is he actually going for a haircut?
Oh God, I hope so. Look at him. He looks like a miniature Yeti.
He looks like Chewbacca.
Yeah, he's like Tiny Chewy. All right, you guys, go away. I love you. Sharon, good morning. Great to see you in rainy, cold Vancouver. Love you too, Ted. Ava, great to see you. This time works for you in Indiana. That's good to know. I do like running it at least once a week, a little bit earlier, because like I said, then I could actually do something with the kids during the day, rather than the day being split in half and it kind of, losing the chance morning and afternoon. Mom, can't wait to see you too, Amber. We are still slime makers. It's very relaxing making slime. I have to say, when she does that and she puts different textures in it, what little things do you put in your slime, Joss?
For the slime?
Yeah, like bits and bobs. You put like different bits and bobs in there.
I found these fake sprinkles. They
yeah,
work really well.
Little dots and things like that.
Yeah, I tried to make it look like a strawberry ice cream.
It definitely does. It definitely does. Super fun. Super fun. My eye is twitching. Let me get going with content. Very fun. Yeah, it's always fun doing this crafty rafty stuff with the kids. I'm usually up at 6. Sharon, so that works for you too. That is really good to know. I think at least one day a week, maybe we'll do that. I'll firm it up and I'll let you know, obviously, before the time comes. And I will be with you on Wednesday. I found some great stuff over the weekend to talk about. It was Father's Day weekend this weekend, so we did a few outings. We went to the Strawberry Festival yesterday in Monroe. Joss, you can't be there making noise. I'm live.
Sorry.
She's looking through the closet for more stuff to put in the slime. We went to the Strawberry Festival, which was so much fun. There was like beautiful, it was very heavy on jewelry and soaps, which I love both of those things. But I just wish that it was like, when you go to fairs, that it was a bit more like you get a little of everything. I wasn't expecting to see rugs or anything, but I mean, there was probably 20 stalls of jewelry. I did buy a really cute pair of earrings. You'll see them in the fall. They're like tiny owls, and they're pressed glass. They look like little pieces of pottery. Speaking of which, remember the show I did on Friday morning at the Charter Oak Cultural Center with Juliet Page? Well, this is a gift that she gave me. She does this pressed glass jewelry as well. And I didn't realize I didn't open it until after the show on Friday. Otherwise, I would have worn it to cocktail night. But beautiful pressed glass stuff. I love this kind of jewelry. I still am thinking about creating some kind of a forum where twice a year, once in the summer and once at Christmas, or during the holidays, we could show what you make besides rugs. Because I love to pick up stuff like this, and I would love to know what everybody makes, We have to figure out how to do that. Jane, great to see you in Wales. Family comes first. Definitely, Allie. Definitely, especially in this summer. It's just I know I can do it all. I'm just trying to figure out schedule-wise how to make it work. We went to the Book Barn too this weekend, and I picked up one of those country type books by Judy. I think her name is. Be careful here. Condon, Condon. Careful there. But one of them featured Barbara Carroll, the rug hooker. And that's the one that I picked up this weekend. So I'll probably share that with you on Wednesday, because it's a beautiful book, and it's a feature probably the book is probably from the 90s or early 2000s, feature on our house with lots of our hooked rugs in it, right? Help me remember the name of Barbara Carroll's rug cooking business. The woolen, come on. I know you know. Fill it in the thread if you can. My brain is scattered because I had to shoot from work back here to run the show. But it all worked out. It's all good. One of the things I was working on this weekend is kitting this product. Hang on, let me see. Boop, 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 boop. Wait a minute, here we go. Split bloom. We were talking about this. This is a mini punch project. And I've been working on kitting it. And I have this set up as a class, and I hope that you're signed up for it, because I've been working on putting the kits together. Super labor intensive, but my God, is this fun. This is Mini Punch, right? This is Mini Punch. And this is a 3-hour beginning to end class that we're going to do together. So this kit comes with, obviously, the pattern drawn on weaver's cloth. It's not drawn, it's transferred on weaver's cloth. And I'm going to show you some of the other things that comes with. These two, hang on, let me come back to you. Oh, mama. Okay. These are, I have figured that these are the colors, right? These are the colors. We've got bloom colors here. I've got them on these individual cards, so you will be receiving, if you've ordered this class, you can still sign up for it. I think the description is in the thread. I'm trying to make them look pretty for you, but they come on these rings that the colors are numbered to tell you where you're going to put each piece. Even if you buy this as a kit, right? The class is live, but after the class is live, it's still available with the class. The class is just recorded from beginning to end. So I have measured out the right amounts plus a ton of extra for all of these colors and these colors, right? This is the color family for this piece. I think it's just a beautiful, I love that these are not typically my color. Wait a minute. No, too big for earrings, too big. But these are 10-inch rings, right? This is a ton of fabric on here. So if you sign up for this, this comes with these, all of the yarns, plus there's 2 extra colors in there. And where's the rest of my stuff to show you? I think I showed you some of this at cocktail night. And an 11-inch square embroidery frame, because I think those are the most fun. And also, with this particular class, a pretty punch, because it's the one that I used to do this project. A pretty punch looks like this. Let me show you. It's a dial punch. It's a vintage punch, so once these are gone, they're gone. But I have a bunch of them for this moment, so hopefully sign up sooner rather than later. They look like this, and they dial out like this with the tip, and they dial to different letters right here that are shown in the circle, A, B, C, or D, and we are punching this project with an A, because you get the most clarity that way without a doubt. And it also comes with 2 of the threaders, which look like this, because the threaders have to go down the whole body of the thing, right, and come out again. This is the end of it way over here. So super fun project. It took me about a day, not super full time, to do that project. It's very, very fast. So make sure that you are signed up for Split Bloom. I'm also putting out for our hook along, that's later today, a different project for the hook along. Not as much direct instruction, obviously, as with a 3-hour class, but the hook along that I'm doing will be a mini punch project for this coming month as well. What is the, Whitney, what is the cost for the kit? Let me see. I don't know off the top of my head. I figured it out when I set it up. Let me just pull that up. I also will let you know while I'm looking up that question. Hang on. I am having a book signing was scheduled this weekend. Dana, who owns Madison Wool in Madison, Connecticut, where I teach just about every month, she said, let's have a book signing for you in July. So the July 22nd is the date. I haven't firmed up the time with her yet. Let me answer Whitney's question. Split Bloom. Hang on. So that is a to be continued. If you are anywhere near me in Connecticut, I will be there July 22nd. I'm going to recenter myself here. Wait a minute. Why are there 2 of me? This is freaky. Is this all psychedelic and crazy? I got to hide one of me.
I want to see.
Look at just $65, Whitney. Oh, wait a minute. 65 for the kit. Wait, look, there's 2 of us, just. Whoa, Drosta effect. Drosta effect. I don't like that. I know, isn't that cuckoo? Okay, so class and kit is 85, so it's 20 more to take the 3-hour class, which I think is a bargain. 65 for the kit, 85 for the kit with the class. In the future, I can say I definitely will not be putting kits out that are mini punch that low. This will be the one, and the hook along will be the ones that are super low to get you involved and interested. Because as you can imagine, this is super, super time consuming. Fun, but super time consuming. So that's coming up, and you are so welcome. So remember, if you are anywhere near me, the 22nd, Madison Wool in Madison, Connecticut, I'm hoping it's going to be later in the afternoon. I'll be there signing books, and I'll bring a bunch of the rugs that appear in the first book, Easy and Beautiful Handmade Rugs, coming out that very week. I think it's the 17th that the books come out on Amazon. So I'll be there selling the books, whatever. If you have a book, just bring it. I'll sign it. Or just come and hang out, look at some of the original rugs that are in the book. It'll just be a fun event to get together and fool around. It's just for fun. I'll let you know as dates pop up too, but that will be a super fun one because I'm often there teaching. Just about every month I'm there teaching. So, all right, so let's look at this month. So I'm going to keep my eye on questions. Just catching up on you. Oh, April. Oh, April, you haven't seen the class on the website yet. It should be there because I just pulled it up. I started thinking, is it there? But I just pulled it up, so it should be there. It's called Split Bloom. So be looking out for that. And like I said, I'm also putting out for the hook along this month. I'll give you a spoiler alert. I don't think I have the image in my hand because I'm in a weird place this morning. It is also going to be a mini punch project that I do for a hook along this month. And it is a Maud Lewis, because Maud Lewis is out of copyright as of last year, fluffy cat with like she's added, instead of just being cut off here, you know, just with blooms like all of the Maud Lewis cats, she's actually at a table and there's a watermelon in front of her. So it's a super flowers and stuff behind. It's a super Maud Lewis-y feeling piece, but very summery with the watermelon. That's the design. I've already designed it. It's all ready to go. I just have to photograph it, get it online, and show you the image. So you can also sign up for the hook along, which does also come as a kit. So that'll also be available soon. Catherine, great to see you. And Kara, great to see you. Missouri and Illinois. Great to see you. Whitney, I can't pull it up again because it'll take too long, but it's right there online. So it's small because it's mini punch. But the whole description is there in Ribbon Candy Hooking. I think it's in the body of this video, but it's definitely at Ribbon Candy Hooking at the store. Let's get going with this issue of Rug Cooking Magazine. It is a lovely image. It is, let me tell you how many pages it is. 88 pages. So it's not a huge issue, this issue. This is one of the summer issues. And this is one of, it's in the summer, there is one issue for Rug Cooking Magazine because it spans June, July, and August, right? So it's a 3-month. Normally it's a bi-monthly magazine, but in the summer it's 3 months. This is a great issue. I have not had time to look, but I know that this, not this exact rug, but that this image has been on the cover before because there's been another Van Gogh rug of this exact painting that we've seen, I want to say like in the mid-1990s. Thank you, Jane. 5 by 5 by 7 by 5. That's actually quite big for a mini punch project. We see them a lot smaller, but it is fast to punch, I promise you.
Excuse me, Mom?
Yes, baby.
Can I tell them about my like length by number thing?
Can you tell them about your length by number thing?
Remember?
I don't remember.
Oh, so can I tell them though?
Yep.
So I was thinking, you know how with your punch thing,
yes,
you can do like, there's 4 letters, right?
Yeah.
A is short and D is long.
Okay, you already lost me, baby.
You know how like on the punch things there's 4 different lengths, right?
Oh, yes, on
Yeah,
the actual
so-
punch needle, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking of doing a design. It's like
I
color
remember.
by number, but length by number. So it would like put the letter on it, and then like it would create different heights.
Yeah, so she came up with this idea, which is actually a great idea. So what she's saying is with this punch tool, it has 4 different heights of loops that it makes by turning the dial. And it's A, B, C, and D. A being the lowest pile, which for me is my favorite because you get the most definition and clarity. And D being the highest pile, which is
And
a
it
bit
looks fluffy.
wild and woolly. And she likes that one because it's fluffy. So what she's saying, she's
Right.
basically describing with different language, using the miniature punch to do Waldoboro effects, getting great height versus quite low pile. So a lot of variety of height in one piece. And what you're saying is creating, like with this piece, the split garden, and also the hook along Maud Lewis piece that's coming out this afternoon, those will be coded on the actual piece and on a piece of paper that accompanies it. For example, on this leaf, it's number 16 because that's the color, which corresponds to on the loop, right, number 16. So it's going to work as a color by number. The mini punch is always going to work as a color by number. But she's saying take that a step further, and on some of the patterns, create a design that's meant to have different height using this tool, right, that has the 4 different height options, and to say, like, not just put color number 16, but also put B, because that section is meant to be punched to have the height of B, which is a little bit taller.
Yeah, like you could like if I made like a dog sitting by a tree, the tree trunk would probably be like A. The dog would be like D, and the leaves and the grass would be like a C, right?
She is so cute. She is so, she's 9, but she is still so cute. Yes, I love that idea, Joss. Let's definitely do that. I think that is actually a great idea because she's describing a system in which we color code like a paint by number, but we also height code. And this tool makes that possible. So super
Can I go
fun.
design one of those?
Yeah, go design one. So Candace says, if you do a higher pile, would it look more like a watercolor? Absolutely, it would look more like a watercolor, 100%. If you think about the B that I did, that was only on the letter B. So there were 2 heights above the B. And not only that, so that's a huge yes. That's it's not even, I don't even have to think about it. That's absolutely a big yes. And I just want to point out that with this tool, with any dial tool, but right, this is the one I have a lot of, the Pretty Punch. So this is, again, the one that comes with the split bloom garden. Not only do you have, right, so you see this cartridge here is turning into here, and it's showing me A. I started on A right there, right? And this is the height for A. D is gonna, I'd have to wind it way up, but it would go much further. My point with this tool is officially there are 4 heights, A, B, C, and D, but before I got to A, right, I'm way below A at this point. There's no A showing in here because I'm lower than an A. All of these heights would still punch, but they are pre-A. Do you see what I mean? So these are heights that are not measured with this tool, but this is still going to work as a punch, right? As long as the shaft is clearing the tip, right, it's going to punch. So I could punch very low. Question becomes, how low is too low? Mumbo, right? Because you want your loops to stay. But that would be something we could experiment with. And on the flip side, to the other extreme, D, oh, I'm sorry, it goes to E. It actually goes, it goes to F. It goes to F. I'm not kidding. See, I would never go that high myself. Just, it goes all the way to F. A, B, C, D, E, F. It goes to F. Let's just, for the sake of S's and G's, let's look at what the F looks like. I mean, this would be absurd.
I didn't know there was an F.
Well, this is E. Like, that's insane. Can you imagine the height? It's not this high, right? It doesn't stay this high.
D, E, F.
It's hard to even twist it to an F because that's an F. That's absurd, you silly bird. That's crazy. I wouldn't do that. But you know, if you did do that, you know what you could then do? You know what you could then do, Joss?
What?
Clip it. You could absolutely clip it at that point. We are talking about Waldoboro now with this kind of height variety. I thought it only went to D. I think I probably only ever used it to D. But going all the way...
I still want to make the first color by length just to A to D.
Excellent. One of the things I like about this tool is you can wind it in, right? And there's no tip anymore. Because you know I'm going to pack this to go to my mom's house after the show. What are the chances that my punch, which is packed, is going to pop through the Ziploc bag? It's a full 100, right? It's not even like 99. It's a full chance. The chance of that is 100. This is interesting, isn't it? Because this is like another medium that's so close to what we do already. You could even introduce in an applique form patches of mini punch on top of your rug hooked projects. You cannot mini punch into rug hooking backing because you can only mini punch into very tight wovens like weaver's cloth is the classic. You would never be able to mini punch into a traditional rug hooking backing because it's a very open woven no matter what you choose. But you could introduce a patch of applique onto the back of your denim jacket, onto the front of your denim jacket, onto your clothing sweaters, but also onto your rug hooking projects. Let me catch up here. So this tool is called a pretty punch, right? And this is, like I said, the tool that is coming with the kits that I'm putting out now. This is a vintage tool, but there are other dial, D-I-A-L, there are other dial punches available on Amazon. This is the one that I've stocked up on. This is the one that I use all the time. So because I have so many of them, I'm going to put this tool into the kit for split bloom. In future, I'll be using a more general tool, probably the Susan Bates or a contemporary tool. But I want you all, if you want the chance to have this tool, to have it. Because, like I said, this is a finite thing. This exact one is not being made anymore, which doesn't mean you're in scarcity mode. You can always get a dial tool. But these are the ones, because I have a stockpile of them, these are the ones that are going into that kit for this project. But there are other dial tools. It's a mini punch. It's a mini punch that dials, which is also known as a Russian punch. Let me check. I was trying to log on, but it says it's moved on this live chat. Can anyone see it? Oh, that's a good question. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Let me tune into that in a minute. Your daughter should be your company assistant when she's older. Whitney, I'm hoping she is. That's one of the reasons I work so hard, is because I'm hoping that she and Teddy will take over the company at one point, that'd be something there for them that is a career. It's one of the reasons I work like a maniac. Let me know how visibility is going for that product. That's worrying me because I just pulled it up on mine. Let me close my window. That wouldn't have anything to do with it, would it? I'm just going to close that window just in case because I'm an admin. Okay, Amber, it's a mini punch. Yep. Hi, good morning. Lovely, lovely punches. Good morning. Good to see you. So, okay, so I'm going to answer that question just because I'm catching up on the thread. The Dial Mini Punch, there is one by Susan Bates that's available on Amazon. It's a great tool. This is the one I've always used so far, and because I have so many of them, this is a tool that I'm selling with the Split Punch kit. And because I'm just launching a bunch of mini punch items, you'll see a bunch of new stuff appear in the store, including color schemes, right, that aren't necessarily for a specific project, but just like one of these 10-inch, this is a cable coil. And I think it works well for this because you can undo the cable and put different cards on it. This is all acrylic floss. It's very thin, and I use this for the pretty punch, right? And I will be dyeing a bunch of more floss that are mixed colors besides being solid colors, but I will be putting them out as cards. Most of these cards are about 20, some of them are 25 yards. I mean, it looks like, how could there be 25? Some of them are a lot less because you're only using it for like one leaf. They're minimum 10 yards on any of the cards for this kit. You will have a ton of extra, but you put it in your stash for next time. And then you can arrange your cable rings in the future to have your entire project on them. If you take this away for a weekend with your cards on it and your small mini punch with your punch and a couple of threaders, you are all set. You can work that on a plane. You can work that on your lap at a hotel. Very, very, it's miniature. It's exactly what we do, but it's miniature. Really handy. I'm just catching up still. The link to the mini punch is on the YouTube description also. Excellent. Judy, good to see you. You have to watch the recap. We've just been chatting so far, and we're about to look at this issue of Rogue Cooking Magazine. Good. Yeah, oh, it is wonderful. I'm having so much fun with this. I'm telling you, it's absolute insanity. I'm at the end of the thread. So let's talk about this issue, and then we'll talk about some more stuff. I'll probably jump back and forth. I love answering questions about mini punch because particularly for summer, with me launching so much mini punch stuff at once, I'm also going to do some videos of showing you how to finish the edges of it. And my buddy Robin, right, who's in one of my ATHA chapters, The Quiet Corner, her husband Mark, who's retired, has been making the frames for me at Ribbon Candy Hooking and the punch frames. And the color carousel that I'm about to list for them, that's the color carousel I use. And it comes with a color paddle, meaning one of the layers of the carousel, if you are going away for the weekend, comes off, detaches, and it has like a band on it that you just carry it as a paddle with just the colors that you're using. So you can do that with Rogue Cooking or mini punch. Lots of fun, but a bunch of products going into the store in the next few days. So, and I have one more thing to tell you, but let's start looking at this issue of Rogue Cooking Magazine. It is a short issue. It is a lovely issue. Let's talk about the features that are in it. The one thing that I'm going to say, and I'm not being negative, is I would really love to see more new content in Rogue Cooking Magazine. I'm going to say that, even though I'm a partner of theirs, I'm going to say I really would love to see some more new content because this magazine is beautiful and it's all eye candy, but there's a lot of content from many years ago. And I would love to see some new and now content. A bunch of people have written in the last few weeks, particularly when I was on the Cape, to say, are we ever going to put a magazine out? We are. I've just got to finish the current book, and I think that's going to be my next project because I would like to put it out. I would like us to collectively put out a magazine with all new content, projects that we're doing, things like that. It's definitely in my head, and I promise I have not forgotten. So this is a great issue of the magazine. We are looking at, let's look at the features that are here. We are looking at, Mark Allison, as you know, is the new editor. So we are looking at a slightly different format that revolves around the last few months, one feature article that is really epic in size, length, page count. And in this episode, in this article, as you can imagine, it's the Van Gogh article. We're going to come to that in a minute. Before we encounter that, we first hit an article on shading flowers, and this is by Sandra Brown. It's a lovely article about fine shading. So this is what the article looks like. It's many pages, and I'm not showing you all of the pages, but this is basically what we talk about and look at when we are talking about in Permagown sort of 20th century school of shading. And this article, again, is specifically on shading flowers. So, beautiful article. She's got some great examples. This is a Morning Glory, as you can see. The article walks you through, as some of the early rug hooking books do. Sorry, my chair is creaking so much. I'm in one of these swivel chairs, comfortable and noisy. This article is walking you through with line drawings how to shade flowers, right? So if this is something that you enjoy doing or you need some more sort of expertise or guidance, Sandra Brown has done a lovely job of showing us the breakdown of several flowers, Morning Glory included, some other lovely flowers here. Illustrations like this where she's giving us a great tip. Those of us who are dyers, right? This is when you have your wool in a casserole dish, right? We often dye in a casserole dish. Or I also like using the flat. Do you have any of the flat cookie trays? The larger ones? Smaller ones work too. But when you have a really large one that fits like the whole stove, they're almost like doubles. You find them in white enamel sometimes in like vintage places and yard sales. But it basically fills the whole oven with one pan. It's great to find those because you can put a really large piece of wool on there and do what Sandra's describing. Put all of we did this in the tie-dye class. Do you remember the tie-dye dyeing class? All of your color on one side. In the wool has already been soaking in synthropol, right? So it's ready to lock into that color, and you pour a whole bunch of your colors with your squirt bottles on one side, and then you tip it, and man, it goes from one side to the other. You end up getting this beautiful ombre effect, right? How fun is that? So you get a lot of saturation on one side, and then it kind of feathers out into more of an ombre lightness on the other side. Really beautiful. It's wonderful when people share techniques like that. This is a daylily. So this article of Sandra's has a lot of really lovely examples of flowers and shading flowers, right? Beautiful colors, alternate colors, lots of interest. So that first article is on shading. I feel that this issue is very heavy on shading. So if shading is your thing, you want to seek out this issue. If you don't have a subscription, which I hope you do, but if you don't, the next article is called The Wright Stuff, play on words, the Wright brothers. And this is taken from Donna Harkman's book. Now, I know we covered this book probably a year or maybe more ago. It's the monochromatic, it's probably last year, the book on monochromatic hooking by Donna Harkman, H-R-K-M-A-N, H-R-K, right? So Donna Harkman's book we have covered on Coffee Time, I think, a couple of times. It is an epic book, right? Super fine book. This article is specifically about this image, the Wright brothers. And this is a monochromatic image that is done in blue and white, right? So we talked about this a little bit in the past, but this article really goes into great detail. And it is heavy on shading and heavy on technique, right? So this can also be found in Donna Harkman's book on hooking monochromatic colors. I forget what the exact title of it is, but it's a monochromatic book that she put out that is absolutely beautiful. We looked at many of the images in the book. It is published by Rug Hooking Magazine, so Amory Press. Really beautiful examples of hooking, but this is one of the projects in the book. So if you do have the book on monochromatic hooking, you have seen this content before. If you're coming new to the craft, this is a great article on how to shade realistically, but not necessarily with realistic colors. How to shade based on tonal values of colors, but not necessarily using flesh color. In this case, we're using blue, right? Interesting. Amber, on the Ribbon website, where is the kit? If you go into the search box and you just put in bloom or split bloom, it'll pop up that way. It should, you know what, I think I do, that's an absolutely viable question. I think I do need to organize the website better. And I'm wondering if we have outgrown Shopify as a host for a website. Because to be honest, I have problems. Well, you know me and the computer, right, is already a problem. I have problems finding my own stuff on the computer, on my own website. I have a lot of trouble. Well, basically you know what? If you're on your phone, okay, so that's Jocelyn there. This is advertising the book that's coming out. If you're on the home page and you scroll down, we've got 4th of July patterns that just came out. This is a scrolling sidebar that shows workshops. Split bloom is one of them. So if you click on it at that moment, this is on the book to buy on Amazon that's coming out in a couple of weeks. This is the vintage 4th of July products. But also if you scroll down, you can click on this for all classes and workshops, or go further. Wools and yarns, all the new sets that are out. Tools like frames and hooks. And then down here, this specifically is the new pattern, right, for the mini punch. So on the home page, if you're in this format, that works well too. Juliet Page's patterns that we just put out this weekend, those are under there too. So it's like and then summer patterns. So if you're on your phone, the greatest hits, you just scroll down, or on the top, scroll across the sidebar thing. Or if you're on a computer and your screen is different, that's a moving target, isn't it? Because I feel like we all look at different screens. You can search for a specific project like Mini Punch or Bloom or Garden, and it will pull that product up. Judy says the link in the video. And the link in the video will take you right there too. But it is super confusing. It is super confusing. There's got to be a better way. I am not looking forward to the metaverse at all, right? Because I am completely bamboozled by just the internet. But I do like the idea of being able to sit on the couch and say, can you show me a product in my store that's called Split Bloom Garden and it appears before my face, Star Trek style, and I literally go like this. Like that, to me, to be able to do that sitting on the couch, that has appeal, I have to say. As someone who struggles so much with the computer, that does have appeal. So the Wright Brothers article is absolutely beautiful. It brings us right through to the feature article. And the Wright Brothers article is a long article. I would say, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8 pages. So 8 full pages. So we are looking at longer articles. We're looking at, I don't know what your philosophy is in terms of life. Less is more, or more is less, or quantity versus quality. All of our ratios are different, right? So I think the philosophy for the current Rug Cooking Magazine issues is like quality over quantity, because we're looking at less articles in terms of quantity, but we are looking at higher quality articles in terms of their length and the thoroughness of them. So, you know, just a different format. This article is called Brushstrokes, Hooking Your Own Van Gogh Masterpiece, and this is by Janet Connor. The story, it is by Tamara Pavic, Photography by the artists. Preparation for fine art hooking is by Janet Connor. That is a sidebar that you're seeing over on the left. So this is the work of several people. We are looking at Le Moulin de la Galette on the right, which is a Van Gogh painting. The articulation of that as a rug hooked piece, designed and hooked by Janet Connor, adapted from a Van Gogh painting. So when we're saying designed by a rug hooking artist, remember that all of the Van Gogh paintings are out of copyright. He is out of copyright. If you pull up an image of Van Gogh and you trace it with tracing paper, you are then designing it. I just want to define the word design because he is out of copyright. So when we are absolutely copying line for line Van Gogh's pictures, you can call it whatever you want, but he's out of copyright. You're allowed to do it. Whatever your technique is to take you from point A to point B, that's how you do it. But it's not like certain people, because I have some Van Goghs in my store, right? And the Van Gogh chair is free in my store because I'm hoping that you're going to download it, hook it, so we can put it in the continued tour of the Van Gogh rugs that have just left Hartford and are going to be on their way to Delaware in a couple of weeks. I just want you to know the copyright thing is always an issue among rug hookers, particularly rug hookers, and particularly on Facebook. So I just want to be very clear that many artists who are out of copyright, I'm not going to get into the copyright conversation today, Van Gogh is certainly one of them. You can use that imagery however you want. You can trace out the lines however you want, interpret it however you want. You do not have to look to specific designers, including myself, to sell you work that is out of copyright. If you are comfortable and happy interpreting it yourself, I prefer the word interpret to design, because when I interpret something like a Van Gogh with a lot of lines, I am basically tracing it. That is my technique. I'm being very transparent about that. I try to give you as much information in lines as I can. I don't put all of the lines because my sort of idea of a happy medium might be different than the next person. I give you just enough lines to be able to hook it successfully, and I try to set you up for success that way. Every rug hooking studio or designer is going to work differently. And I'll just remind you, in terms of interpreting copyright-free work like the body of work that belongs to Vincent van Gogh, not copyright belongs, but is part of his life's work. The basic rule for creating a rug hooking pattern, right? And it's going to depend on the size, but the basic rule is that when you are drawing your pattern out, you know what size you want it to be, right? Say you're doing Le Moulin de la Galette, like this one we just looked at. You are putting it on a piece of backing that is X amount of inches tall and wide. If your Sharpie marker, you know, the fine tip one, I'm not talking about the chisel tip and I'm not talking about the ultra fine. I'm just talking about the regular Sharpie marker with a pointy tip. It's called a fine, not the ultra fine. Fine Sharpie marker. If your Sharpie marker cannot pick up those lines, then it is too tight and too busy. That's the general rule, right? So if you're drawing it with your Sharpie marker and you're going, I can't even see the eye, can't even tell what that is anymore, the hand looks like this, then it's too fine. You have to either blow it out bigger so that you can get that detail in there, or cut some of the detail. And that is the job of a designer. If I'm selling it to you, I want to sell you a pattern that is possible to do. But if you're doing it yourself, that is the rule of thumb. If you can't capture the detail with your Sharpie onto your backing fabric, right, at that size, then it's too tight, too small, too much detail. So think about either enlarging it or dropping some of the detail, right? That is the rule. So this is a lovely article, and Deborah says, I wonder how, see, I have a heart over that comment. There we go. Now I can see it. The new format shows me a heart, so I can give hearts to things, but it blocks the comment. So it's like, thank you, Streamlabs. So the comment said, Deborah said, I wonder how she transfers such detail to backing. Same way we all do, right? We all have different formats. Some people use I use the fiber tape. Some people use the red dot. It's going to be X amount of lines, and I think in this case, Janet Connor or anybody who's transferring any design is thinking about the detail, right? So one of my buddies, for example, let me show you this. I hope she doesn't mind. One of my buddies who I chat with a lot on Facebook, Debbie, she sent me a thing and she said, Debbie, I hope you don't mind me showing this. She's working out a design. We were going back and forth yesterday when I had the kids at the playground. I had my phone out because I was working. We were going back and forth on this design that she's trying to articulate. It's a stained glass picture, right, that I don't know if you can see, probably not on my phone, but what I'm trying to relay, there we go, is there's a lot of detail to the picture. So she's trying to get that to be, she's trying to figure out how many lines is too many lines, right? And we're having this exact conversation. Well, if your lines are so many that you can't reproduce this thing on backing with the lines that are in it, then you have to enlarge it or you have to drop some of the lines. It's a constant conversation, right? For rug hooking people, for rug hooking designers, for rug hooking companies. When you're drawing a design, you sometimes have to make these tough choices about what information to drop out of a pattern. So for something like this, because Van Gogh is an impressionist artist, his brush strokes, right, his detail is oftentimes way more than we can communicate in a hooked rug in our medium, even with a number 3, even with really thin yarn. So the question will, naturally come up, what do I choose? That's the personal choice, right? If you trust yourself to make that choice and you are a creative person and you're confident, and I hope that you are, and you're thinking, I think I can decide for myself what I want to keep or not keep, copyright free, you just do it. But if you're thinking, I'd like for someone else to send me a pattern with the lines there, then that's what I'm here for, and that's what Janet Connor's here for, and that's what rug hooking companies are here for. So either way, right, you win either way. You figure out how you want it done. Oh, Magby, great to see you. Great to see you. You can also think about Proma gowns, if you can picture some of Proma gowns, 1960s era, Currier and Ives type drawings, patterns. Some of them are like this big, right? If you think of her stair treads, you can picture what size those are. Some of them are like Home for Thanksgiving, Currier and Ives. Do you know what I'm talking about? These are crazy detail on the pattern. They have to be hooked in a 3, and it's still almost impossible with a 3 to get that detail, right? These are decisions that you have to make as a hooker. What you're up for, what you're not up for, what you feel you can tackle, right? These are all questions that are unique from person to person, because you can hook in as fine amount of detail as you want, and you are comfortable doing it. But for myself, when I'm putting patterns onto backing, I'm always thinking about sizing, and I'm trying to think about the average hooker, right? Not like somebody who's been hooking for 40 years, but the average hooker. Will they be able to do this and be successful, right? That's always the first thought in my mind, because if I sell you a pattern, particularly like a Van Gogh, and you have a preconceived idea of what that pattern looks like, and you get it home and it really ain't possible to hook it, right, with beginner skills or sort of medium skills, then I have failed as the person who sold you the pattern. And I have set you up for failure, which is something I never do on purpose, and I never want to do. So these are all real specific conversations we're kind of having in the sidelines about transferring and the amount of detail that would appear in these kinds of paintings. It is always going to be tricky to move from one medium to another. And in the case of the Impressionists, because of the nature of their work, it's impressions, right? It's not lines, it's not folk art, it's not graphic art, it's impressions. They are trying to give you their impression of, for example, a sunrise in the morning in the way that the sky looks orange, right? It's not going to be done in lines. It's going to be done in layers of brushstrokes. And that's very hard to translate into a backing, right? It can be done in hooking. Color changing wool, ombre wool, dip dyed wool, casserole dyed wool, right? Like the technique I was just describing. But it's not apples and apples, it's apples and oranges. So taking on a project like this is a little higher in difficulty, but you should absolutely do it. Because unless you are looking at a Van Gogh and thinking, I need to hook it exactly the way it looks as a painting, if that's the way you set the bar for yourself, it will be a lot harder than looking at a Van Gogh and going, I love Moulin de la Galette, I love the painting, I would love to do it, and if it looks anything like the painting, I'm going to be very proud and satisfied. That's a better sort of avenue to be walking into this kind of project on, if you see what I mean. I emailed her this question, but no response. Deborah, let me know if I answered that question. If I didn't, I'm gonna hit it in a different angle because we can answer this question live for sure. Monique, great to see you in England. Happy morning, happy afternoon to you. Melissa says, I want to do your Mystery Girl series in the fall. I love that too. I started one of them and I haven't finished the rest. I was reading the Judy Bolton books over, which I love more than the Nancy Drews. And I designed, I think, 3, maybe 4, but I think it's 3 kind of fake covers, like made up girl mysteries. I want to do those too, and I want to do some more. And I think I want to do them as mini punch at this point. I started it as a full blast, but I think I want to do them as mini punch so I can frame them and put them on the bookshelf with my collection of girl mysteries. Super fun. So back to this Van Gogh article. It is the feature article. It is 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? 10, 12, 14, 16, 17 pages long. Epic. Really beautiful, really thorough, lots of great examples of, oh, I'm sorry, we just saw that one. That was hooked by Janet Connor. Lots of great examples of different people hooking different Van Gogh projects. This is based on one of his inspired by Rembrandt prints, right? Because remember Van Gogh was quite religious and he was in a sort of school for theology, following the footsteps of his father who was a minister, very, very liberal. And he decided not to continue in that sort of religious lifestyle because they were forcing him at school in Amsterdam to learn Latin. And Van Gogh was already proficient. Well, obviously Dutch is his native language, but he was absolutely proficient, if not fluent, in French, German, English. Okay, so Dutch, that makes 4 languages. To learn a 5th, Latin, he thought was ridiculous, not just because he didn't want to learn another language, but because he felt that the average person, who was the person he wanted to be connecting with in a sort of religious leadership role, he wanted to be connecting to the average person, not the person who was so well schooled that they knew Latin. And he fought against that, and they would not allow him to continue his education without doing a section of it in Latin. And since he refused, he had to leave school. But he was very religious, and he studied the Bible, obviously, religious art, and the works of Rembrandt and Delacroix and other artists of that time who covered religious subjects. This is one of them. This is The Good Samaritan. So this piece is done by Becky Groff, Groff, and on these pages it's showing you the journey between this is an LME stock photo, well cited. It's showing you the stock photo, the journey between that and putting it onto the backing. And in terms, let me stretch this out a little bit. It's also, I'm sorry, reversed. But the conversation that we're having about detail and how much detail is too much, for Becky, this is her answer to the question we're having. So you see the black and white breakdown of the Van Gogh painting, right? Again, You know what, let me just flip this because shame on me. I reversed it and I didn't realize. Oops. Ba-da, ba-da, bap, bap. Let's try one more time. Sorry. There we go. So we're seeing in black and white the Van Gogh, and then we're seeing the way that it's translated onto the backing. And you can see many of the lines are have gone by the wayside. Oh, with the Wright brothers, Deborah. I'm sorry, I thought you meant with the Van Gogh. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a Donna question for sure, because it's specific to her art. I'm so sorry, I misunderstood the question. I felt like I could answer universally for Van Gogh because I'm knowledgeable about Van Gogh, but I can't answer for Donna because she is on a level of hooking and making, shading, and everything that is way beyond what I do or what I will ever be able to do. So hopefully she responds and answers that question, because I would be interested in knowing. Let us know if you get an answer to that. Her detail is phenomenal. So this is just a super article. And if you love Van Gogh, you're going to love this article. This is another beautiful piece. Mom, we had one of the Cypress series in our house growing up. This is not this one. This is Road with Cypress and Star, designed by Janet Connor and hooked by Susan Jonak of Elkhorn, Nebraska, 2022. And Susan said, I learned that working outside my comfort zone isn't so bad. That's fantastic. Very impressionistic this is, isn't it? If you look at the way the colors appear in the sky, in the tree, in the sort of grainy field, in the street section, it's very piecey, isn't it? And it resembles brushstrokes more than just changing colors. Really lovely. Judy, great to see you. Good afternoon in the UK. Oops, wait a minute. Let me shut that last one down. So the article looks like this. I'm just going to kind of fly through it because we're getting there time-wise. Really large article, really beautiful article. I'm moving on to the next article. Lots and lots of imagery, lots of different people hooking. I have to say, I really wish that this article mentioned that so many of you have hooked the Van Gogh chair and that this exhibit has gone to one city and is now headed to another. I really wish that that would have been mentioned in this article. It is what it is. So let's move on to the next article in this issue. And that is an article by Jean Shepherd. We all love Jean Shepherd. This is called Dabbling with Nylons. Now, this is content that also appears in Jean Shepherd's Dyeing book. Can somebody put the title of that book into the thread? Colors to Dye For, I think it is, D-Y-E. Is that possible? Come here, baby. Come here, baby. You want to put your little face in the screen again? He wants to put his little face in the screen again. You're happy. Okay, be normal. Be normal. He's so happy it's summertime, right?
It is summertime.
He's so mushy. He's so mushy. That's my man.
Mama.
All right, baby.
I'm gonna go use the bathroom.
Okay, use the bathroom. Keep the door shut, please. The
Yeah,
bathroom's here in the playroom.
Broken.
This is by Jean Shepherd, Dabbling with Nylons, and this content is in his book, and I think it's called Colors to Dye For. Just so you know, this content is also available in his book. We have covered that book. This is not a new book, but this is a beautiful idea, and hooking with nylons is one of my most fun things. I sell nylons on Ribbon Candy Hooking. We need to do more hooking with nylons. This article is absolutely gorgeous. I just want you to be aware that if you have this book, this will not be new content for you. Hold on one second. Let me come back here. It is beautiful. This piece on top, Carnival Paws Mat. This is one of my favorite rug hooked pieces of all time. And again, this is by Jean Shepherd. So he's showing a trivet, right, on the left-hand side, and he's showing Carnival Paws Mat in black, right? This, again, one of my favorite pieces ever. And then a close-up of it down below. And he, for this project, was hooking with not just nylons, but these guys. Right? I found this at flea market 2 weekends ago. These guys, right? He's dyeing these guys. They come in either nylon or cotton. These are cotton, right? And I found these for $1. So obviously I had to get the bag. The bag isn't even, well, it might be open, but if there's some missing, I can't tell. To do these things, right? We know these guys, right? I have this metal one too. I'll have to do a video using this, because if you were to weave these and piece them together, that would also make a beautiful rug, right? If you did a bunch of pot holders in nylon, wove them together like crocheted squares, prepared to dye. Thank You, Robin by Jean Shepherd. That really is, for me, the Bible of dyeing. That is like the greatest dyeing book of all time. But these guys are fantastic to hook with. You can cut them in half and hook, or you can double them and hook with them that way. These are cotton, so they're all heathery and tweedy. I just detected a little hole. Let me pull some out. If you got the advent calendar this past year, I had a bunch of tweedy colored, let me see if I can focus them. Tweedy colored, you get my freckles, but you're not really getting the, sorry about that. Wants to focus on my face. But these are tweedy colored pot holders. You got some in the advent calendar if you signed up for the advent calendar this past holiday season. But they also come in nylon. The nylon ones are harder to find, right? Because they don't make them anymore. They just make the cotton ones. But if you have the nylon ones, they dye beautifully. And that's what Jean has done in this article. I think he's got mostly nylon ones, like nylons, right? Like hooking Grenfell style. So this is a really beautiful article on hooking with nylons, particularly the little loops, right? And he's showing you great examples, lots of directions. He is the master. He's showing you examples of older rugs, right? Grenfell style rugs. This isn't necessarily a Grenfell, but this is hooked with nylons. Now, if you hooked with nylons back in the day, right? This is like a Victorian era rug. Well, no, late 1940s. Sorry, this says late 1940s. They could be older rugs. We could be looking more toward like well, no, not really, because we're talking about nylons. If we're talking about nylons with stretch versus cotton like tights, right? Two different things. But this is an example, in any case, of an older rug that is hooked in nylon colors. Could be that it had more color, like maybe natural dyes, but the colors have dyed over the years. But this really does look like legs, eggs, right? Pantyhose in like nude, suntan. Remember all the colors that pantyhose came in? I guess they still do. Really beautiful hit or miss. It looks like a much older rug, but he's saying 1940s, and I think it's his rug. This is 34 by 38, not one that he made. But it's in his collection, from the collection of Jean Shepherd. Absolutely beautiful, completely as is nylon, it says. Probably stockings, right? So this is a lot of this, the date and all that is sort of conjecture, because we can't know for sure because it's an older rug. But it does look like it's an undyed rug, and it's an interesting example of something that's done with nylons. I'm going to run over by 5 minutes today. Another piece that I think is in Jean's, oh no, this is from the collection of Barbara Holden. Bakelite clasp, an attractive nylon hooked bag, handmade by a skilled artist, probably during the 1940s. Subtle use of different colors, all nylons, right? During the sort of war years, right, when everything was rationed, nylons were precious, treasured. If you had holes in them, which inevitably you would have all kinds of ladders in your nylons, you wouldn't wear them, right? How shameful would that be? But you would want to save them because people were saving everything. Make do, right? Make do with everything. And you would use them for a project like this. It has a little bit of green, so maybe the green has been dyed with this one. Could easily do this with berries, this color green, like it's like a real bayberry color, isn't it? Isn't that beautiful, Sharon? It's just a gorgeous bag. And another early example that is not Chetty Camp, right? Because Chetty Camp is all nylon, right? That whole school of hooking is all nylon. Nice examples of hooking with nylons that are vintage or beyond in not Chetty Camp, right? Because that's kind of a rare category right there. And then he's got this beautiful piece in here. This is my last image from the magazine for today anyway, where he's shown you some nylons that he has dyed, right? Like pantyhose nylons. And they can be silk nylons, Judy. They don't have to be silk. The content, I'm sorry, let me leave this open. The content is going to depend on what dyes you can use. Silk nylons dye great. But for example, if you have Hanes nylons, right, they're not going to be silk. They're going to be some synthetic, some natural content, probably. Maybe, I don't even know if there's any natural content in nylons anymore. It might just be all synthetic. But I do dye with nylons a lot. Jean Shepherd dyes with nylons in these pictures. Nylons can be dyed with acid dyes. Yep, Sharon, absolutely. So I do have some videos, right? And I do have a class on dyeing with nylons that's available at Ribbon Candy Hooking. I did that with Joss, I think 2 Christmases ago. But I know I have content online for free at Ribbon Candy Hooking about dyeing with nylons, because I use Hanes nylons. There are regular ones. I dye huge quantities of those when I work on nylon pieces, and people order nylons from me as well that want to dye with them. So I have a whole, you can just buy the nylons from me, right? Because I get them super wholesale, so they're super inexpensive. And they're regular, right? So parts of them are transparent, parts of them are opaque, right? It's all like imperfect nylons. I get them in huge quantities, right? I buy boxes that are honestly bigger than this door behind me. So those are available if you want to give it a try. And you do use your acid dyes, the same dyes that you use for dyeing wool, right? So if you have the Dharmas, the Prochems, the Cushings, those will dye the nylons as well. Super a lot of fun. Whitney says, can you do punch needle with loopers? So that will boil down to, I'm going to say yes. There's going to be two problems with loops. One problem is you're going to have to try it with the regular punch as opposed to the fine punch because of the narrowness of the shaft. It's never going to go through a fine punch. Number two is when you cut a loop, it's only going to be double this big. So you're going to be reloading your punch needle like literally every 20 seconds. So if you're okay with that, it will work. Same for hooking, right? It's going to be the same for hooking. You're constantly grabbing the next one. It's just with hooking, you just grab it. With punch, you have to reload your needle. It's not a big deal, right? It's not a big deal. It's just a little more time. How thin can you cut the nylons? Very thin, right? Depends on if they're the opaque one versus the totally transparent ones. The thing with the nylons is when you cut them, they curl on both sides, right? So this is all included in the video that I recorded. You don't want to, if you cut them too thick, it's the same as cutting any item of clothing, sweaters, t-shirts, jersey, everything. If you cut it too thin, because of it, the nature of it being a stretch material, it curls in on both sides, right? And it automatically becomes a lot thinner, and it will rip. Right? If you cut them too thin, it will rip. So it really depends on the piece that you're holding in your hand. Cut it with scissors first or with a rotary cutter, right? Definitely cut it with a rotary cutter or scissors. I never cut them too thin because I know they're going to roll in on themselves from the sides. And when they do that, we're talking about a very small piece. So for example, using just a loop as an example, this piece isn't as thin as it looks. This piece is, I would say, 2/8 of an inch. Right? And when it rolls into itself, this is going to hook to something that is like 1/8 of an inch because it's curled in on both sides. So you want to be thinking about that, because if you were to try to cut it to for example, 1/8 of an inch. Now this is machine cut. This is a pot holder, and this is cotton. This is not nylon. But if you were to cut this to 1/8 of an inch or 2/8 of an inch, there's a very good chance it's going to rip in your hand, never mind hooking it or punching it. But it's worth experimenting and seeing. My point is that because it rolls into itself, you see how the two sides are rolling together right here? It's never going to hook flat like this. It's going to roll in. Because of the nature of a knit doing that, it's always going to come up a lot smaller. So the idea of hooking with a smaller cut is maybe less of a thought with hooking with nylon and pot holders or cotton pot holders, either one, because they will roll in on themselves. But I would say experiment and try. I can't give you a measure because it is different from one to the next. Even from one pot holder to the next, I can see in this bag there are all different thicknesses of pot holder, right? All different thicknesses, completely different. So it is a bit of a moving target. But that also makes it fun, doesn't it? How can I get this magazine? I can't even find it here in Canada. I would say, can any Canadian say, how do you get Rug Hooking Magazine? Or do you get it over Amazon? I don't know how you get single issues. They certainly sell them as back issues immediately. I think they sell single issues also at Rug Hooking Magazine. You might want to check out their website, rughookingmagazine.com, or their Facebook page, California. It's definitely on Amazon. It's definitely on Amazon. So check out their website, Rug Hooking Magazine. You can get it as a subscription, and I know it comes with at least one free issue. So subscribe today. I'm looking at the card for subscribing here. So subscribe today. It's $40 for 5 issues. That's a savings of 38% off the newsstand price, because it should be available at Barnes & Noble and at larger bookstores, possibly Joann's, Michael's, possibly. Or you can do 2 years, which is 10 issues for $69.95. So that is more of a savings even yet. But all of this information, Canadians, please add $5 per year for shipping and handling. And please allow 6 to 8 weeks for your first issue to arrive. So I would check their website in answer to that. And I would say this issue might not be available singly yet because it's not a back issue, but it is about to be a back issue. And then maybe get a subscription so you're on course for the next current issue, but you might need to back issue this particular one. So I'm going to say one more thing because we're running way over. I'm surprised the kids aren't chasing me right now. One more thing. One of the things I was working on now, I'm going to work on when I'm at my mom's for a few days. I will be back to on Wednesday, right? We'll probably be looking at the work of Barbara Carroll. Woolly Fox. Is it Woolly Fox? That just popped into my head on Wednesday. So great episode coming up for you on Wednesday from her house. One of the things I was working on in the last few days is I had this idea, and I've talked about this before, but I finally started putting it together in my head. I'm still working on books, as you know, but I have got to work on projects too, or I go nuts. Too late, I am nuts, right? I had this idea that I've been working with ties again. I've got the ties out. Somebody ordered some ties for me, a lot of 10, right? So lots of 10 random ties are available also on Ribbon Candy Hooking. I don't know if that link is here, but on Ribbon Candy Hooking, you can see I sell the neckties. So I sell a dyeing set with the neckties that comes with the synthropol, the citric acid, all that, but I also just sell 10 neckties because I have thousands of neckties. If you order 10 neckties from me, you will certainly get 10 neckties that differ in color and in scale. So while there are neckties that have commonalities, like you see a lot of polka dots and paisleys, you might get polka dots and paisleys, but you won't get them the same scale. You'll get all different scales. So of the 10 neckties you have, each one will transfer differently, and thus transferring it onto wool is what I'm talking about, transferring silk neckties onto wool. Each piece of wool that you end up with a different print will look completely different because I won't put ties in there in a pack of 10 that look like each other. I promise you I won't do that. I'll be very careful. I can't vouch for how each individual tie performs. I can't vouch for what colors of dye, because these are garment dyes, are actually inside of each tie. A navy tie could be 90% fuchsia. I have a video coming out about this, right, in the next couple of days because I recorded it mostly last night and a little bit this morning. So my idea was that I wanted to take a pack of 10 random ties out of my pile, which I did. And last night I just separated them from the lining, and this is in the video that I would be posting, and laid them onto white wool that had been soaking in synthropol, all in the video, rolled them up tight like I was making little tacos or little enchiladas, tied them with twine that was not colored, or the color of the twine would also transfer, just plain like natural or bleached twine, and drop them into pots of dye pots, right? Because it's still garment dye, meaning it's still chemical dye, into pots of boiling water or almost boiling water with some citric acid like I would be dyeing anything. And what I'm doing is leaching the print from the neckties, and it's transferring onto the door fabric. Super fun. So that video is coming. I have a video on it already on the Ribbon Candy Hooking channel. This is another video because the reason I'm choosing 10 neckties, and I'm gonna use the product of these 10 neckties, these 10 pieces of wool that I just have been working on for a specific pattern. And this pattern, I have to figure out if I can say this in the pattern, but do you remember Filene's Basement? Or do you remember the idea of Filene's Basement, where, or any department store, basement store, where mostly women, I'm going to say women and be sexist, I'm sorry, because you did not see men at Filene's Basement. You didn't. You see women down there, the doors open, they literally are running. It's like the running of the bulls to the different bins of fabric in their clothing, and they're pulling out all these, they're literally stripping, just stripping, because there's no dressing rooms. It's not there anymore, or at least it's not there the way it used to be. It closed years ago. The one in Boston, that was the one Filene's Basement. Anyway, I wonder if you can see this. I did this sketch, and I still have to work on the center area here. But for the most part, it's a long, skinny sketch, and I'm going to be transferring this and working onto it because all of the articles of clothing, you've got women holding up articles of clothing, back of someone's head at a bin, and she's got her hands holding something up, garments that are just in bins, people holding up different garments and making away with different garments. And then there's some garments hanging, like a little fur coat and some dresses in the back, right? But it's just the busyness, the craziness. It's very cartoony. I drew it. I didn't refine it. I just drew it and then taped all these pieces of tracing paper together because it was way larger, and put it on the scanner and broke it down into a much smaller scan. So now this is my process. Now I can trace this and fix this trouble area right here. The rest of it I actually really like. So first shot, I really like it. You know, I'm not a great artist in terms of drawing. I went to school for graphic arts, right? So graphic arts I'm pretty good with, but drawing not so good. This is my style, and I'm trying to lean into my style more instead of being perfect. I draw in this cartoony style, right? And I want to like it and embrace it more. So I'm doing this. I'm gonna hook this up. I'm gonna do it as a cartoon with outlining. Oh, Dave, great to see you. I changed the time today. I'm sorry. Pull the rug out. I'm sorry. Thanks, Mom. I have my moments for sure. It's not most moments, but it's a few moments. But I really like it the way it is. And the idea is that I'm gonna do it outliney, like almost like it's a comic in the newspaper, that kind of thing, you know. And probably black outline, thin. And I'm probably gonna hook it with yarn, the outline. But all of those pieces, all of those garments, I want to be a different wool that I dyed with the silk neckties, because they'll all be patterned and printed, right? So I'm hoping to fill in all the major areas of the pattern, all the major examples of a garment with one of the pieces of wool that I dyed with the silk neckties. That's why I wanted 10. There's more than 10 in there, but some of it will be solid. It won't all be patterned, but I will have 10 patterned pieces of wool in this Filene's Basement pattern. So I'm going to be working on this, not at this moment. I'll probably be working on it in 2 days. But I love this. It's a winter scene too, because somehow I just picture Filene's Basement, at least for myself, being there with like hot winter coat and suffering because it's so athletic. It was so athletic being there, pulling stuff out of the bins. It was a lot of fun. If you have a memory of your department store in the bargain basement of your department store and how insane and chaotic it was, maybe it's a good memory. This could be a fun pattern for you as a hit or miss pattern. It's a hit or miss pattern, right? The reason I'm putting an outline of it is because it's very busy and I want it to be very flat, but I do want to use my patterned wools that I'm dyeing with my neckties. Reminds you of a Herman cartoon. Oh, I'm gonna have to look that up, Dave. I don't know Herman cartoons. How fun. So thank you, Magby. So we'll see how that goes. That's one of the projects I have in mind. I've got to finish up the second book. That's a project in mind. I have a mini punch project as well, and I have this project. This is what I'm working on. I'm pretty caught up on orders for now, so please go ahead and order something. I could definitely use some orders. Remember, the mini punch thing is out there. Remember that these guys, these kits are going to be hooking in a couple of days as soon as I'm back from my mom's. The first ones have already shipped with split bloom garden pattern, with the pretty punch, with 2 threaders for the pretty punch, with the 2 10-inch cables of the measured amounts. It's way more than you need of the thread or floss that's going into the pattern, available as a class or not the class. All of this stuff is available. Also, the neckties will be going up, and I might be able to finish remotely the editing of this video so I can put that out for you too. Monique says, never thought of using neckties. Yep, I mean, it's so much fun. You can hook with neckties, but you can print onto white fabric or colored fabric multiple times. I would say 5 or more times at least with the same necktie. You can leach the print and colors from it that many times, and all the details will be in the video. And I have other videos on dyeing with neckties. But this one will be specific to the Filene's Basement pattern, because then I'll be hooking the pattern with the spoils from that project. But yes, you can absolutely. And just remember, if you are doing this process, just remember that if you are using white fabric, because you're thinking, well, I want a white background with the print on it, the background is not going to stay white, because as soon as your white fabric with those ties hits the water, the primary dye colors will come out, right? Reds, the colors that come out first will come out immediately, blues and reds, right? Those 2 families. So those will immediately fill the water with that background fabric, which is good because it marries all the colors together, but you will not end up with white. You will end up, you can keep cleaning your bath of water, and I do this in the video. If it immediately fills up with blue, I pull the neckties out, I pull out my little chimichangas, my little enchiladas, pull them out, empty it, fill it with clear water, put it back in. If it fills up again, Sometimes I need to clear the bath 3, 4, 5, 6 times because it's filling up with too much water that's dyed. It's filling up with too much dye, and I want the background of the fabric to be not that dark, right? So you have to stay there at the stove and really stay on top of it. But it works great. If you're like, I really want like a medium blue in the background with the print on top of it, then you just leave it in there because it's going to dye the wool and put the print on the wool. It really is so fun. It's so fun. Cat's Gallery, I have a silk necktie collection thanks to your video. Isn't it fun to find them, particularly in the summer at flea markets and yard sales and thrift stores, right? They are super fun to find. And remember to check the tie. One of the 2 labels on the tie should say that it's silk or not, because sometimes polyester looks a lot like silk, and those will not transfer at all. If you end up getting some by accident, you can cut them up and hook with them, but they will not transfer for you, and neither will wool ties that are wovens. Those won't transfer at all. Debbie says, hi, Deanna. I love the idea of using the neckties. I have so many of my dad's, and I love the idea of incorporating them into an art piece. You know what would be so cool? I do, too, have a lot of my dad's neckties. And I haven't done it yet, but it would be really cool, for example, if you were doing a hanging or a pillow or a footstool or piano stool, something like that. If you were to transfer, like with your dad's collection of neckties, right, transfer with them X amount of times until you had enough transferred wool, right, that had been transferred by the neckties. And then say you were to hook half of the project, almost log cabin style, right? If you were to hook half of the project with the wool that you printed and the other half of it with the actual neckties, that, I mean, you might have to put a carrier under it, like a little bit of muslin fabric or something to give it more body. But imagine the texture difference if you were to hook half with the wool and half with the silk neckties, how cool that composition would be. And there would already be some mystery to it because your eye would say, there is, I can't tell what it is, right? Because it would be very hard to, without knowing the technique, it'd be very hard to figure out how it was done. But your eye would be going, ooh, there is something very similar between these silk ties here and these wool ties. Wonder how that happened. Would be because it was printed from the silk tie. That would be really fun to do, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be fun to do? Maybe I'll do a little bit of that in this project right here too. Use some of the actual silk neckties and hook it into other parts of it. I think I will do that. I think that's a great idea. So you just saying that just got me going, and it's already 12:19. Linda Ann, good to see you. Yep, I have tons and tons of ties. You're visiting me, so you can take a bucket of them back with you. Take an empty suitcase of ties back with you. Oh, thank you so much. I love this drawing too, actually. Yes, that basement pattern. Judy, quick question about split blooms. Do you use embroidery floss? If so, how many strands? Judy, that's a really hard question. The only way that I knew how to put together this was because I punched it already. So I don't know the answer to that at all. It would completely depend, because if you were hooking it with embroidery floss, that would be different than this stuff. This isn't embroidery floss. This is from the Pretty Punches. This is the Delight, the Pretty Punches, all of those brands, right? It's an acrylic spool and it's much thinner than embroidery floss. So if you were to do it with embroidery floss, you would need a lower quantity, but it would punch up differently than mine punched up because I used a different weight of floss. So what I would do, if you have the floss in mind, like if you're going to do DMC, something like that, I would just sample punch a tiny square of like, not even an inch, maybe like a 1/4 inch square, and go, okay, I have X amount of flowers that are about that size. I'm going to need, this is how much it took. I'm going to need this time 7 flowers because I've got 7 flowers about this size, and then pull it out. In some computer programs, you can scan your pattern, put it up there, and then choose fields, like all of the green flowers. I'm choosing all of those. And some computer programs will give you a ratio of what percentage of, this is very technical, right? This isn't, I'm not great at this, but I know it exists. What percentage of the composition, for example, is the background, or is that part of the background, and you subtract that from the entire composition, and that might help with quantity, right, with coming up with length for yarn or hooking. Best way to come up with quantity is always by sampling it yourself. With this kit, I know it works because I put it together and I already punched it. Everything else, I would say absolutely you have to do a sample, even a tiny sample, and just gauge it, and always gauge a little bit more than you think. Not an extra 50 yards, an extra 10 yards or even 5. Even 5 yards is a lot with a piece of floss. Even 5 yards is a lot. But that is a bit of a moving target because it does depend on your material versus my material. So that's tricky. I will say I don't have, let me show you this. I will say with Split Garden, for example, if you look at the bottom left, that pink flower, that's half of it's pink and half of it's light pink. If you look at just the right-hand side that's light pink on that one flower, this isn't going to help with the measure, but mentally gauging that just the right-hand side of that pink flower on the bottom right, that's about, I would say, 5 to 6 yards of the material that I'm using. Just that one little half piece, 5 or 6 yards of material of the floss. So when you look at the larger quantities, you can see why we're talking about 20, 25, 35 yards, and why some of these spools are big and fat, like this one, right? Because that's probably got 35 on it, and why others are thinner, like this one, which is probably, that's still probably 15, 20. So all of it's been measured. So any of these punch projects that I put out, I will be measuring them to make sure that you have the right amounts. But otherwise, just like with rug hooking and other punch projects, little samplers. And it does become fun to figure out the measurements and the math behind it. And also the way that you punch or the height that you're punching at will be different, because if you were even to punch split blooms on the letter F as opposed to the letter A, I would honestly need to give you 5 or 6 times more material. It would be ridiculous. So it is exciting, Monique. It's all exciting. Yeah, they did, Judy, they did, Pretty Punch had a thread line. Delight, D-E-E-L-I-T-E had a thread line. Oh, there was about 5 of them that had their own thread spools. They were all different. Some are much thinner than the ones that I use. And I accidentally bought like hundreds of them, and I don't like using them because they're too thin for me. And with those, I have to pre-cut, and then I have to quadruple and work them through my puncher. So that's a lot of extra time. You can't go directly from the spool if you're going to double it, treble it, or quadruple to make it thicker. But when they're thin, it's more like Valdani. So some people do like that. For me, I like it to be thicker, right out of the tip of the punch needle, because I don't have that kind of patience to do that fine one strand business. But if you do, some of these spools are much thinner, and some are much thicker. Some are glossy, some are flat. They're all very different, very different. And I am going to start dyeing like lace weight yarn for us to do this with, so we have some modeled materials for backgrounds. That's my next hands-on project, is putting out a line of both solids in this kind of packaging, right? Maybe different packaging, but it's easy to keep them on a thing like this because you know that they're not going to come undone, and they tuck into these little floss holders easily. And it's a good way to measure them. I have a floss winder that I can wind those with. But that's my next project, so that we can all enter into that. And it can be an apples to apples exchange between rug hooking and miniature punch, not just punch and miniature punch. Because the thing that these yarns are missing so far, the commercial ones, is that they do not come as multi or variegated yarns. They come as solids. So that's my next project, is to create color changed modeled color choices, so that you can do a Magdalena, Brian, or Evie, or you can do some kind of really old-timey piece, and it has a color-changed background. Because right now that doesn't exist for mini punch. So I want very small model changes, but not completely different colors. So I want to do that next for us, so that comes as an option, and I'll put out some kits that have completely wacky color-changed backgrounds with solids, right? So we can really do apples-to-apples stuff with some of our favorite rug hooking designers. Am I going to sell the basement pattern? Yes, definitely. Definitely I will. Definitely I will. Because I think it does. I think it has appeal for all of us who shopped this way back in the day. But yeah, I definitely will. I'll make sure that it works. I'll resolve the problem at the center. That one tiny part is driving me nuts. And it will be kind of a long, skinny pattern. It'll be a really fun pattern to do. I need to think about the size I can do it as a mini punch pattern, and I can do it as a rug hooked pattern. But just like we were talking about earlier with scale, it would have to be a larger pattern because of the amount of busyness. But what a lot of fun, in hit or miss, right? We were talking about this on Friday, hit or miss patterns. Hit or miss pattern doesn't have to be a geometrical pattern, does it? It can be a pattern like this with lots of different areas to fill, right? You populate every part of this composition with colors that you have left over. You don't need a lot of any one color. So this will definitely be available as a pattern, and I'll have to see if it's available as a kit. I might put it out as a kit with the ties for you to dye, because I don't know that I have time to do a lot of dyeing, but it'll be available in a sort of multitude of different varieties. Linda Ann, thank you. This was a super long one. I'm so sorry about that. We really got going. I think I concluded the idea of this issue. There were some more interesting articles. Maybe we'll pick up on Wednesday and just talk through what the last 3 articles are. They are the smaller articles, but let's start with that on Wednesday. We'll talk through the rest of this magazine, not in huge detail, but just so you know what the contents are. And if you are chasing this particular copy of Rug Cooking Magazine, you decide whether it's one that you have got to have. It is a great issue. I will see you all on Wednesday. If you need me in the meantime, I'm at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. And I will see you soon with lots of projects. Be looking out. Watch this space on the Ribbon Candy Hooking channel and also in our Facebook Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club, because it's like a dam is about to break with a bunch of projects right behind it and a bunch of new products going out. So I will see you on Wednesday. We'll talk more about that. Have a great